Hello, beautiful souls. How are you doing? This is one for all the witches out there. This is one for all the folk magical practitioners. If you're coming across this video and it is the first time that you have seen me on YouTube, my name is Avalon and I'm a hereditary witch, and I come from Brazil, and I specialize in folk magical practices as well as tarot, and I'm an avid reader as well. So today I would like to talk to you a little bit about the details, the intricacies behind folk magic, and how they are acts of magic that are perceived to be simple, yet they are layered with fundamental elements of magic that come from experience, and how they can appear simple from the outside and yet are so intricately detailed on the inside. So I was inspired to do this live stream today, mostly because I'm wearing red. I always feel like I get extra inspired when I am wearing red. What does this button do? Oh. All right, now I know. Mostly because today I've been sitting down writing the petition ebook for my coven, and I'm up around the 9,000 words right now for this beautiful book that I'm writing for the coven, and it focuses specifically on petitions. And when I first started writing this, I thought petitions are so simple, and this is that expert mindset thing that happens from time to time. And I'm thinking petitions can be so simple. They're just so amazingly simple, and they're brilliant, and they can be done on the fly, and there's something so handy and accessible about petitions. However, I found this to be a metaphor for magic in general, especially folk magic. Folk magic can be as grassroots and as simple as you want it to be, and yet you can add layers and layers and layers of detail and magic. Take, for instance, the petition, and this is what I've been writing about today in my coven ebook. And if you don't know, I run a coven on Patreon. You're quite welcome to join over there. It does come with a monthly fee. However, I provide a great deal of resource over there, and this is one of them. So I'm writing this very, very juicy thing, and today I'm talking about the layers in which you can add to your petition. So petitions begin with the paper. You can go standard, which is very much hoodoo inspired, and that is the traditional brown paper with the torn edges. You can go a simple cut of paper. You can go a piece of origami paper. The paper that you go with is the foundation of the magic that you're about to create. Now, paper in and of itself, I go into great detail about the paper because I had no idea. When I first started, I tumbled down the thought spiral, and I'm like, I like to be as detailed and intricate as I possibly can within my magic. And when I'm talking about magic, I like to be detailed about it. So I'm like, okay, so everything from recycled paper to colored paper to parchment paper to just the paper in general has been covered, right? And I'm talking about this. Now you can go standard paper, you can go whatever paper you want. Then you can go into colored paper. So you've got paper plus color magic, right? And then to that, you might want to add a little potion, a little elixir. You might want to soak your paper into a moon water, or you might want to soak it into a little bit of a potion, and that adds yet another. So let's say you've gone for color magic. You've gone paper plus color plus potion work. And then let's say you've let it dry in the sun, you've got solar magic. Then let's say you start to write, and then again you have the option of color magic with the type of pen that you use and the color of pen that you use. But let's just say you've chosen your pen, so you've got color magic again, and then let's say you want to anoint it. You want to anoint the corners of your paper, so you anoint it, thus adding another layer to it. So you've got color magic, and you've got potion magic, and you've got oil magic, which is technically a botanical based magic. You're working with condition oils for this. Let's say you're doing a petition for success, for instance. You do a petition for success. You write out your petition in the affirmative. The wording has also been covered in this little ebook, but the wording has to be exactly right. The way you start a petition is exactly what leads to the embedding of its power, right? So you've got your spelling magic, your word magic, you've got your paper magic, you've got your color magic, you have got your potion magic, you've got your oil magic, your condition oils, you've got your green witchcraft, because oftentimes condition oils are made from natural botanicals and essential oils. So you've got that green witchcraft element there. So that choice alone adds to it. Then you have the numbers of times in which you are going to anoint your paper. So that brings you into number magic. And then you have the folding of that and the direction of folding. So you've got an elemental directional magic going on then. And then what you choose to do after that adds layer upon layer. So let's say you're going to put that petition into a shaker jar. You're making a component for a shaker jar spell. Let's say you are going to be, putting your petition underneath a candle. Then you're adding or layering in fire magic, candle magic to it. And so I started to write about this, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm going through the intricacies of color magic, and I'm writing down the associations of each color in a very liberal way, because I'm a firm believer that color is subjective. Color magic is subjective. The formulas that we see, if you type in color magic right now to your Google search, then what will happen is you are going to come up with a virtual cornucopia of all bits and pieces. So gold can be included in one and not in the other. You can have brown included in one and not in the other. You can have silver included in one and not in the other. You can have white and black included in one and not in the other. And so there is such a beautiful array of information about color magic, but most importantly, when it comes to color magic, it's about the feeling. It's about the feeling that you get when you are working with the colors, because color is such a personally perceived thing. It is about the feeling that you get when you are looking at color. I used to be terrified of red. I used to be terrified of it until I realized that red is actually one of my power colors, and when I wear red, especially when I wear red lipstick, I may not be wearing anything else on my face, but hello Savannah, I might not be wearing anything else on my face, but I've got this bold red lip, and I walk through town and I feel amazing, and I get complimented because of the boldness of my color choice and how much it suits me. The same could be said for anyone wearing a power color that truly, truly suits them. And so I'm looking at this, and if I had done a gorgeous petition using all of the layered methods, and then some that I go into detail about in my petition book, right? You would be looking at a piece of folded paper, and you would be in danger of thinking, that looks very simple. Little does one know from the outside looking in that folk magic looks simple, but is anything but simple. When it comes to folk magic, the time of the day that you cast your spell, when it comes to the hands of a clock, astrological timing, lunar phases, these are things that cannot be perceived from the outside looking in. When you're looking at a photo of magic, a spell constructed, you don't know any of that detail. And then you actually look at the magic itself. If it's a petition, like we are talking here, you are looking at a piece of paper that has been folded. How are you to know what went into it? How are you to know from the outside looking in if any color magic went into it? So let's say you've introduced color magic to your petition in the form of pen choice. You can't see that from the outside. You might see brown paper folded, or you might see a form of white paper or recycled paper folded, right? And you can't see the intricacies of that, but the color could be in the pen that you've chosen. It's a beautiful thing. And that is what I love about folk magic. It's the detail that can go into folk magic, the detail that we pull from the foundation of learning that we absorb when we're learning our witch's craft. Witchcraft is such a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful practice. It's wild and it's varied. Folk magic specifically is wild and varied. It's steeped in superstition. This is why I love folk magic so much. I've tried more organized forms of occult magic. It doesn't suit my nature. Doesn't suit my ADHD-ness. It doesn't suit my ancestors. Just doesn't suit. So where I come from, magic looks a bit messy and it looks a bit simple. We're talking terracotta bowls left at crossroads with candles and chicken's feet standing out, and fadoffa, which is traditional, and money and bottles of booze. And we're talking about offerings left at crossroads, and you look at it and you can sometimes tell who that's for. You know, there are specific orisha, and there's specific spirits in Afro-Brazilian voodoo that would be represented in such a manner, and you can see that from the outside looking in, but you can't see the intricacies within the magic itself, and that in itself is a beautiful thing. There is so much room for detail in a simple petition. If you want to write your spell and then you want to add a personal sigil, you're using sigil magic. If you want to write using number magic, you might write your name and then your date of birth, and then you might write the very thing that you want a multitude of times, a specific number of times. And there's that repetition magic in the form of numbers, so you have number magic there as well. There is so much room for layers and layers of magic in simple folk magic, and that is something that people forget. No spell is really simple. You can light a candle and imbue it with your will, and it's very simple and it's very beautiful and it's very powerful magic. I'm not saying it's not, but oftentimes what you're going to find is that the candle was chosen with a particular color. The time of the day that it was lit was a particular thing. The fact that it was a candle and not herbs in a bowl or something else has linked it to fire magic, which is again very, very specific. It might have extra components around it, extra decorations in the form of botanicals. You just don't know. From the outside looking in, magic can look very beautiful, it can look very approachable, but you never know what went into it, what timing went into it, what knowledge, which knowledge went into that spell. And that's the beautiful thing about folk magic. And as I'm writing this beautiful petition book, and I'm going through the intricacies of petition magic and how to write a really good, robust petition. I believe that anything that is worth doing well, which is why I started just wanting to write 3 pages, and I'm into 9,000 words now. So obviously I have a penchant for writing, and I'm inspired to deliver as much as I can about this. But I love to break things down. I love to dissect things and to show my student, my coven, how it is that you can add simple layers that most of us already know. Most of us who are even remotely interested in witchcraft understand, you know, what kind of magics can be done with lunar phases. You don't have to understand astrological magic in its entirety. You can do day-night magic, you know, the magic under a moon, or magic during the, you know, high hours of the sun, the solar magic type, right? You can do that. It's very basic and very approachable. Color magic is something that most people will read as they're coming into witchcraft. Color magic is a beautiful thing. The days of the week, that's something that I forgot to mention. The days of the week, right? The hours of the day, astrological timing, the hours of the day, the hands of the clock, or days of the week. Again, you don't see that from the outside looking in. If you're just looking at someone's magic, if you're seeing it on Instagram or you're seeing it on YouTube, you don't know the intricacies, the detail that went into it, the planning of it, the execution of it. You know, where that person was during the day, whether or not they had been cleansed from top to toe, whether or not they did some kind of an ablution before they did their magic, whether or not they've prepared themselves wearing any amplified ritual jewelry. Like it all matters. It all matters. This is why my culture, and this is specific to the women in my culture, or to those who identify as women in my culture, they jingle when they walk because they're wearing trinkets all over themselves. They literally headscarf and jingle. And like an iceberg, magic has unimaginable depth and layers. Absolutely, Savannah. Absolutely. My eldest daughter, her name is Savannah. I love that name. And so I was inspired to do this live. I thought that this might help to remind you that as simple as magic is, It's no longer simple. Magic is simple when you are skilled. And I'm not saying that to exclude anyone. Magic is simple when you are skilled, because the skilled practitioner of the art of magic doesn't really think, because they know. They understand. Their process of deciding and planning comes from such a well of knowledge that it's not something that they have to force. It's like, oh, okay, I know that the full moon is coming, or I know that the new moon is coming. I'm going to set an intention. I might do it at this time of the day. Astrological hour ruled by, let's say we want to expand on something, we'll use the arrow of Jupiter, and so on and so forth, right? So all of that just comes very naturally once you know. Once you know your battlefield. It's a big word. Once you know your battlefield, once you know your stuff, once you know the parameters of magic, those parameters can be pushed, they can be grown, they can be re-established time and time again. But there is something so beautiful about the foundational elements of magic, specifically folk magic, how magic moves in different hemispheres, how magic moves in different seasons, how magic moves in different times of the day under different elemental rulers. The type of elemental magic that you might do if you're doing an earth spell, a fire spell, an air spell, a water spell, like how that moves. We all have a natural propensity towards a particular kind of magic. And I'm going to make an erroneous claim. No, it's not erroneous. I'm making a sweeping statement is what I'm doing. I would say that fire magic in the form of candle magic is perhaps the most prevalent of magic that you will see photographed and shared and done, because it's quick. It's easy. You don't need too many components. In my culture, fire magic is not the most done, but it's right up there. Spiritual baths, ablutions, spiritual washes is the biggest thing that we do over there. It's the green blood wash that can be used to wash your whole body, including your head or the floor of your house. It is washes, full stop. And then it's colognes following that. So it's all within that realm of water. And it's such a beautiful thing. Here where I live, I always think about doing baths and washes, and then I forget. And then I think about it, and then I forget. And then I think about it, and then I forget. I've been thinking about doing a white rose petal bath for freaking weeks now. I'm about to lose the roses because we're coming into the end of summer, and thus we are facing autumn soon. Woohoo! And I will not have had my white rose bath. I have also been planning my road opener for the year. I didn't do one last year, or did I? I can't remember. But I like to do one every so often. I like to do a really, really big one. So I've been talking to one of my besties here about it. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get to that. But the one thing that I do a lot of is light my candles. I light my candles. I have my spell bowls, which is very earth magic. And then I'll spruce that up with a little air magic. I'll start to cleanse with smoke, or reactivate with smoke, or reactivate with a candle, just to zhuzh it all, and my spell, and my shaker jars and things like that, my spell jars. So it's a very beautiful thing that can be done. And it's important to understand where your comfort zones are, because once you understand where your comfort zones are, you can get really, really good within those parameters. I'm of the opinion that magic is to be learned in its entirety as much as possible. There is no such thing as it in its entirety, mind you, but the more you know, the more you can be adaptable within the realms of magic, the more you understand. Like I've studied everything from chaos magic to grimoire magic to, I've studied bardic lore through the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. I did a stint within the realm of Wicca. Oh my gosh, I've run the gamut. I have run the gamut. I can't even think now. But I have run the gamut of magic, and I've pulled everything that resonates. And I don't try to bastardize anyone's practices or anyone's traditions at all. What I like to look for is the thread of similarity. I come from a tradition, so that's a start. And the way that we do things in my tradition is very different because it's not necessarily considered Western magic. It's very spirit-centered, it's very spirit work, and it relies on folk magic and on the spirit of the ancestors. I work a lot with my ancestors. Anyone who's ever had a professional tarot reading with me will hear me call my ancestors at the start of every single reading I do with my little Peruvian owl rattle. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so that is about all that I have to say about that today, my beautiful souls, because I've been inspired of late to talk more about the intricacies behind magic. And with all of that said, it is, one of those beautiful things to be considered. All the many layers of magic. And there is no right or wrong to magic. We can't really compare our magic against that of someone else. I think that magic it feels a little bit like yoga from time to time. Like every good yoga teacher I've ever had has always said, find the comfortable position. Here's the downward dog, move, move, move. Find the comfortable tradition, or the comfortable movement, or the comfortable mobility. So you move and you flow and you shake a little bit like that. And, all of that, you've got to settle into the bones of your magic. And sometimes, that translates into Sarana, Tari, hello. And sometimes that translates into experimentation. So I've said this before, and I've said it in my coven. People often talk about red as the color for love and passion, but it's also the color of war and blood and anger and so many other things, right? If you have a negative association with a color, it's impossible to see that color through the lens of color magic as it has been perceived. If you have trauma with a specific color, that is something that we need to honor and respect. Likewise, any element of magic, if it brings you trauma, if the sound of something brings you trauma or triggers you in some way, this is why magic has to be personal, because what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. There is also this there's a sense of entitlement almost in magic. When we're talking about water magic and you go down to the ocean and you collect ocean water and all of that, what about people that are landlocked, that don't have access to the ocean? Yes, they can use fresh water, but what if water is scarce where they are? And so on and so forth. So there are all different types of practitioners all over the world that have had to adapt to their surroundings. When I lived in the tropics, or when I lived in the Northern Territory, I had to tailor my magic to adapt to my surroundings, because what was commonplace for me over here in this part of the world is not commonplace for me here. I spent the vast majority of my life not being able to connect with the standard concept of seasons, because I've lived in very, very hot places where the seasons could not be as easily perceived. So you have to adapt to that. And so when it comes to folk magic, it is all about adapting to your surroundings, using what you have in your biosphere, using what is around you, using the information that you have learned, and consistently cultivating more information. Hi, Anna! And consistently cultivating more and more and more of that information, and and doing your best to refine it and to make it fit your practice. We of course live in a season and an era of cultural appropriation, and I am not educated enough to speak on the subject of cultural appropriation, but I understand that there is respect and sensitivity in that subject. And so over the years, I've seen the term smudging, which is a very specific term used, come out of people's mouths and be replaced with smoke cleansing. I myself have had to do this. And, you know, that is an element that we all need to learn as well. When we are adopting magic, when we are refining magic, when we are experimenting with magic, there are ancestors to every type of magic we are moving through. And if you remember that, then respect will naturally be paid. Like when we're talking about the magic of the chakras, there are ancestors to that. When we're talking about elemental magic, there are ancestors to that. When we're talking about astrological magic, there are ancestors to that. There are so many beautiful spirits and ancestors to different types of magic that are trying to guide us as we are moving through that absorption process, that educational absorption process. It's such a beautiful thing. Oh my God, I'm at 23. No wonder I'm cooking. And so it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous process to educate oneself in all the fundamentals of magic. When people come to me just for a hot tip, when I get all the little messages on Facebook and Instagram, my first tip for anyone looking to learn magic or looking to become or shape themselves into, or shape their witch's practice, not themselves, but themselves, yes, but shape their witch's practice, hello, is to learn the fundamentals. And when you start looking at the fundamentals of magic, they are vast. And so I like to be able to help people as much as possible, which is why I've decided to start writing this petition book, which is going to be a chapter to my Coven handbook, which the way that it's going is going to be such a long freaking manual of magic. It might end up being my life's work, who knows? I don't know, but I've started off strong and I realized that I have to write more and more. So I'm writing it in chapters and then I'm uploading it to my Coven in chapters. And I may end up, you know, putting it up on my website in some capacity as well. So if you're interested in that, let me know because I will make it available. And hugs from Brazil! Thank you! Abraços, Camila! Abraços para você também. All right, my beautiful ones, I'm going to head off. I have laundry drying. I am going to a music festival today and I went to wash my my music festival coat and it was hanging outside and I put it through the wash and I pulled it out and about 20 spiders fell out of it. So I'm working with spider magic today and my coat's been washed now a dozen times and I'm down at the laundromat doing the big wash in hot water with an extra rinse and then I'm going to pop it into the dryer. Lo and behold, bing bada bing, it's all good. So I'm working with spider magic today, I'm working with Mojo and I've been writing all day and that's a sign. I know, that's a sign. And yeah, all the things are happening today, beautiful souls. It's been handover day. It's also the first day of school for my kidlywinks. It's handover day. It's Friday. Ruled by Venus. Ruled by Venus. I'm a Taurus and it's Friday. So the music festival is happening. I need to look a little bit beautiful to pay respects to the ruling planet of Venus and to step into that magic a little bit as well. So that is what I'm planning on doing. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today, guys, to talk about the details and the intricacies behind folk magic specifically. And I want to say this before I go. Every magic, not just folk magic, every magic has its intricacies. There's my timer. Every magic has its beautiful intricacies. And the one thing that I want to encourage you all to do is to look at ways in which you can add layers of meaning and magic to your spells. So it's all about the layers. It's all about the details. Every layer of magic, whether it be color magic, number magic, numerology, whether it be astrology, every one of those layers adds detail and nuance to a spell, thus completing it. And so with all of that said and done, I'll leave you to it. Take care, happy spell casting, and I'll see you soon. Bye.